Hello, hello, possums. Yes, yes, it is I, the conspicuous moo. And today just a bit of Final Fantasy footage as I level up my conjurer. And we go over the events of the last couple of days. And it's fair to say that Activision Blizzard have had an even choppier time than normal in the last 48 hours or so. So it's probably time just to have a little look over it. Let's get cracking. Anyway, just when you think Blizzard couldn't fall any further this year, they've managed to find another cliff to jump off. It does seem that I might have been missing the mark a little in a recent video when I said, the legacy of Jay Allen Brack was going to be you think you do but you don't, and a brass statue out the front. It turns out that he has been presiding over an alleged culture of drunkenness and sexual harassment, with a healthy dose of discrimination against women and minorities on the side. Other lowlights that have been named in the California lawsuit, including using lactation rooms for meetings, sidelining promotions for women because they might get pregnant, sharing pictures of a woman's genitalia around at a party, and regularly joking about RAPE. This apparently is not a new problem at Blizzard, and it is alleged that upper management and leadership have done little or nothing to curb the behaviour or terminate the troublemakers. Now, of course, we are all supposed to assume innocence until proven guilty, but there are a few things that are unbalancing this in my own mind. For example, if the Californian authorities have wrapped up a 2-year investigation and have decided to sue you, chances are that they've got the goods on you. They're not likely to proceed if they think there's a good chance they'll lose, because going to court is expensive and it's a lot of wasted taxpayer money. That never ever looks good. And it's not as if they're up against some third-rate gaming startup. You know, they are going after a heavily lawyered Activision Blizzard. So if even a fraction of these allegations were true, it would probably be simpler for Blizzard to admit default to those, make restitution, and then begin restructuring the company from the top down. Instead, according to the press release, at least they have gone for the pugilistic approach, blaming the bureaucracy of California for not communicating with them properly and denying wrongdoing. They're also taking aim at the authorities for forcing them out of California. Pretty sure that if you were guilty of these kinds of offences, you would not be likely to get off scot-free anywhere in America. I would be astonished if that was the case. I mean, are there any states that would allow this kind of behaviour? Of course, denying everything will drag out the legal process considerably, and during all of that time they're thumbing their nose at the alleged victims of the workplace culture they've established. Jay Allen Brack's internal message that was intended for leakage and outside publication, in my humble opinion, is a lot less confrontational about the mean old government agencies holding businesses to account for their workplace abuses. In fact, it read as little more than an attempted justification of his spectacular failure of leadership. He is actually directly mentioned in the lawsuit as having not intervened sufficiently in the case of Alex Afrasiabi, who was a regular drinker and a regular partaker of sexual harassment of women, both inside the company and at, the very many conventions that Blizzard attend. There is also, of course, the standard issue corporate non-speak about values and integrity that no one is going to ever take seriously, least of all the staff members who have been affected by these apparent events. So, while Jay Allen Brack is trying to justify his continuing existence as president, Fran Townsend is on the other side of it. Now, 4 months into her job as the Chief Compliance Officer at Blizzard, that's the role responsible for compliance with the laws and regulations that they're bound by in the state, she's decided to chip in with a commentary of her own. Now, apparently, she has never had any trouble in all 120 days of her work history here. So I guess that's alright then, there's nothing to see. She also adds that some of the allegations, are distorted, they're incorrect, and some are even from more than a decade ago. I would pick you up on that one, because I suppose, if they're from 10 years ago, they don't count anymore. Is that right, Fran? It's clear that she's all in for bunkering down and hoping the entire gaming community just forget about this. So it's safe to say that there isn't a great deal of consensus on messaging at Blizzard because they can't even agree what to say to their own people. Not all of these allegations are specifically Blizzard or World of Warcraft oriented, but there are some specific names mentioned that are associated with the franchise, and it appears that some of the leading names in Blizzard's actual history have been at the very least aware of and have failed to take action against employees whose behaviour would result in instant dismissal if they were committed elsewhere. I fear, however, that instead of owning up and effecting change, Activision Blizzard are going to turtle, hunker down and deny everything. It's not unlike what happens when people working at Blizzard complain to HR about their harassers. Imagine for a moment what that does to all the minorities and women still working there, probably with a litany of complaints to make, but as yet no way to speak out for fear of marginalisation and or redundancy. Think how relieved the wrongdoers are knowing that Activision Blizzard's lawyers are going into bat for them. And that's before I've even addressed the many anecdotes and testimonies that are buzzing around Twitter at the moment. There's more than just smoke here as well. I mean, the depth and breadth of these allegations attests to that. The scale of the abuses being retold by former Blizzard employees in the wake of this filing is now coming to light, and the rotten core of Blizzard is now being exposed. The delays and quality issues of the games that they make are more understandable in the light of this kind of legal scrutiny. Given the combined weight of anecdotal corroboration, listings in the lawsuit themselves, Jay Allen Brack's internal message of contrition and self-justification, and the hysterical screeching of the press release denials, it's not really that much of a stretch to imagine that at least part of these allegations are true, and that Blizzard are ultimately going to be found liable for these abuses. Ultimately, it should be the higher-ups and the human resources teams that need culling for starters. But, as long as they contest the allegations in court, can anyone be truly satisfied that they've managed to turn things around inside? I do feel many things about this. Like sadness at, what Blizzard has done to so many of its own people. Anger at the behaviour of people in authority who perpetrated or allowed these offences to be committed. Because even with the assumption of innocence that you take into every court session, there is a damning black book of misconduct here that will need to be stared down. And it does follow a pattern of behaviour from Blizzard Entertainment over recent years that has demonstrated quite a bit of indifference to people and cost many people their jobs, happiness, and in one alleged case, their life. That the leadership would allow things to get so bad that the government themselves has to intervene and prosecute, well, it will all come out soon enough, I'm sure. Anyway, those are my thoughts for now. If you can, and if you're able to, then please try and offer and give support to Blizzard employees, current and former, who are struggling right now in difficult circumstances. There are some first-rate, passionate and talented people at Blizzard, but they are being appallingly let down by their management at the moment. And it does look like this toxicity goes back quite a while. So for my part, I hope that those responsible get the justice that they deserve, and that those so many people who have been affected can begin to heal. Anyway, I will be back relatively soon, but until then folks, I am the Conspicuous Moo, and a very good night to you.